Hey everybody, this is Toby Younis with a Gypsy's Kiss. Stick with me for a little bit and I'll tell you why we're all suffering from a case of confirmation bias. So before we do that, let me take care of this one little tiny bit of housekeeping. And that little tiny bit of housekeeping. Okay, we're good there. All right, so a couple of things. Number one.
Housekeeping, you want to?
Before you leave today, make sure you take a moment to like this video. YouTube likes it when you like our videos, and we like it when you like our videos. Share it with your family members, your friends, your neighbors, your business associates, and all of the people on your social networks. And then finally, if you're not already a subscriber, please take this opportunity to subscribe to the channel. That way, when we host a live stream or schedule a live stream, you'll be immediately informed, but it means you have to click that notifications bell. So there shouldn't be any excuses for you missing one of our live streams. So that's first. Now, the second and most obvious thing is that, as you can see, my partner Shelley Carney is with me today. And I'm going to explain that now, and then I'm going to read you a letter tonight. So, no, Shelley and I have not split up. But she's gotten very, very busy with building her softer side business, her transition coaching business, and is working towards fulfilling that dream of hers. In addition to that, you may know that we've started a second channel called It's Not a Restoration. And It's Not a Restoration is going to be very different from a Gypsy's Kiss in that it requires more shooting and editing. There is a live stream once a week, but it's going to require more shooting and editing. She's doing the shooting and editing, and she's also maintaining the Instagram account, the Twitter account, and we're going to be building an Etsy store. So we had to make some decisions about how to proceed from here. And what we've decided is that, and again, I'll explain this more in tonight's show, that she'll be with me, joining me on a Gypsy's Kiss on Wednesday nights for Wednesday Fandango, Hump Day Hoedown. And then on Friday nights, my intent is to invite a guest to join me then. As a matter of fact, I'll have a special guest tonight. But it was just a matter of us. I mean, we were producing, 4, 6, 8 hours of programming a week. And we're trying to maintain 3 separate channels. And it just caught up to us. And you know, us, we're always busy, and it just got too busy for us. So we're also going to be making some changes next week. So next week you will see me on Wednesday, because I've been promising that I would summarize the survey results next Wednesday at 1 o'clock. Then Shelley will join me on Hump Day Hoedown on Wednesday. Then there will be no Friday 1 p.m. show. From that point forward, there will be no afternoon shows, just Wednesday Hump Day Hoedown and Friday Fandango. But if you want to see us together, you can see us together on Wednesdays at 2:30 on the softer side. Fridays, not that you're crazy about seeing us together. Fridays at 2:30 on the softer side, and then Fridays live streaming at 4 o'clock from It's Not a Restoration. So we're still doing a lot of things together. We just had to cut some stuff back. Because she's taken the responsibility of not only building out her own business, and she made a significant investment in it just this week, of building out her own business, but in addition to that, she's also responsible for the back office functions in It's Not a Restoration. So that's what we've decided to do. Like I said, I will have a special guest with me tonight, so tune in for that, for the special surprise guest, and then we'll see where we go from there. All right? I hope that doesn't disappoint you. Shelley just sent me a letter that she wanted me to read to you tonight. So I'll read that tonight. So it pretty much explains everything that I just said, but in her polite and kind way that she does things. Okay? So let's get on with today's show. And today's show, as I expressed to you, one other thing. Hang on. Let me switch over. So this is the Fenn Treasure Searcher Survey. We have 325 responses, which makes for a very credible survey. This is the last weekend. It will shut down at midnight on Sunday, so if you haven't participated in the survey, this would be a good time to do that. It takes less than 5 minutes, like 3 minutes, to answer all the questions. They're generic questions related to the search. We will summarize that. So midnight, Sunday, close. That's so 11:59 p.m. on Sunday night, we close the survey. No more respondents. No personal information is required. No contact information is required unless you choose to have the full survey mailed to you. And that's the only way you can get the full survey, by indicating on the survey that you want it mailed to you. If you took the survey and you didn't fill out that last question that says you want it mailed to you and you've changed your mind, you can actually go back using your same Google account and edit that so that you can have the survey sent to you. So on Wednesday at 1 p.m., I will be on to summarize the survey results. And then directly after that show, I will send it out to the people that requested to have access to that survey, as well as the spreadsheet of data. The email addresses will not be included on either of those instances. What I send to you will not include the email addresses of the people that asked to have the survey sent to them. And then we're going to share that survey information with several people in the media community who asked for it. But as long as you give us credit, if you have a YouTube channel or a forum or something like that, and you use the links we give you, you're welcome to share it with the people that you know, as long as you keep the copyright information associated with it. Okay? So let's get on to today's, and I think I'll just keep this here. So I want to go to this, to confirmation bias. And I'm going to give you an example, a classic example of confirmation bias. And then in between the time that I announced this show and today, I got a long email message from a gentleman whose name is, let me get his name correct, Forrest Kolb. And yes, I guess his name is Forrest, Forrest. He has an adorable little family, and he took a trip to look for the treasure. They found what they thought was the treasure location, and he sent me a video clip of that. And I'm not gonna use. I'm not punishing him for this, but I want to give you a sense of how confirmation bias can overtake rational thought. Well, it's not irrational thought, but how it can overtake the facts. And he sent me a couple of videos. Like I said, he didn't just send it to me. He sent it to several other YouTubers and forum owners. Gypsy Kiss, Treasure at Mysterious Writings, Cow Lasers, K-Pro, Lou at those, what are those pasty white guys? I can't remember the name. Fenn Treasure Hunter, and Shannon Utz. So a lot of people got this, so it feels like he wanted to have it shared with the community. So I'm going to take advantage of that, and I'm going to play the video, and then we'll talk about it afterwards. And then I'll open up the phone lines, and you can call in and tell me what you think your version of confirmation bias is, okay? Because, buddy, we all have it. All right, so did I refresh that? I did. Okay. So, oh, that's the survey. So this is the dictionary definition of confirmation bias. Confirmation bias, the tendency to interpret new evidence as confirmation of one existing beliefs or theories. Now, I'm going to give you my own definition, and then I'm going to play a video that I found online that I have permission to use the first couple of minutes to explain. This is like the academic definition, how academia defines confirmation bias, because it's a thing apparently, not only in treasure hunting. But here's my definition of here's my version of confirmation bias. As you know how I feel about the concept of the mythology associated with the lead searcher. But in my form of confirmation bias, and this is just an example, I don't want you to believe that I believe this, but I'm going to give you an example of confirmation bias. So here are the facts. The facts are that we know that Forrest Fenn doesn't like me, right? That he doesn't like the content that I produce. He's made comments to several people, including people who have translated those comments back, transferred those comments to me. So he has some reasons not to like me. I can be pretty obnoxious, especially when it comes to him. So we know he doesn't like me, that he doesn't communicate with me, that what few emails that I've sent to him way back when, up in last summer or so, he hasn't responded. And that he certainly doesn't go out of his way to contact me, and that the most classic example of how he feels about me is that when he was told that I was getting out of the search last fall, his response was "good riddance." So my interpretation of that, so those are the facts, right? But I need that to fit my beliefs that I'm the lead searcher. So I take those facts and I translate them into things that fit my beliefs. So the reason I think I'm the lead searcher is that Forrest Fenn watches my videos, knows where I go, sees my trips to the Rio de los Pinos, and has decided that the best thing to do is maintain an arm's length relationship with me, so that there is, if when I find the treasure, when we find, Shelley and I find the treasure, there is no sense of collusion between Forrest Fenn and I. So that's my version of confirmation bias. I take the facts and I fit them to my beliefs that I'm the lead searcher, and here's the reason I'm the lead searcher, and that is Forrest is maintaining that no collusion, arm's length relationship, so when I do find it, people won't say, well, you had inside information from Forrest. Okay? That's an example of confirmation bias. I'm going to qualify that in saying I don't believe any of that. All right? Those are the facts. But I have no sense I don't believe that that's why it's happening, that I'm going to be finding the treasure soon, and Forrest doesn't feel good about that, wants to maintain that arm's length relationship. Okay, so I found this. Let me see if I can make sure it's slid back all the way over here. And I'm going to play this little video. And this video comes from Facing History and Ourselves. And it was actually part of a series that they were doing on the benefits of the media and journalism, and how people interpret journalism in their own way. And I don't want to get into that. I'm not going to do this. As a matter of fact, I'm going to stop it before it gets to the political part. But I want you to see the front end of this video so that you can see what academia thinks about the concept of confirmation bias, okay? So let's play that. I got to keep an eye on the audio, make sure it doesn't get too loud. Let me open up the screen.
Confirmation bias is the idea that we tend to accept information unquestioningly when it reinforces some predisposition we have or some existing belief or attitude. The flip side of that is disconfirmation bias. People tend to be unduly skeptical of information that contradicts some predisposition they have or point of view. So we tend to be too accepting of information we want to hear and too critical of information we don't want to hear. The problem is when it comes to matters of fact, where there is a right answer, there is evidence that is overwhelming on one side or the other, and yet our predispositions are getting in the way of us accepting that information. Confirmation bias is important because we often are trying to evaluate information, and we would like to evaluate in a way that's accurate. But we also sometimes care about what the outcome is. We have a preference for who's right. And when that preference affects what we believe, we may come to have inaccurate views. We may tend to have a narrow-minded view or a biased view because our predispositions are influencing our judgments about the world.
Okay, so that is a pretty good definition of confirmation bias, and the opposite actually occurs, right? We have a bias towards not believing people who have the facts, and it doesn't fit our beliefs, so there's kind of an opposite effect as well. So when I tell you I have evidence that the treasure is in New Mexico, you're going to say, no, he spent his lifetime in Yellowstone, et cetera, et cetera. So that's another form of it. And the fact is that when each of you are on one side or the other of that bias, then there is no discussion, there is no debate. And we know, historically speaking, that the best results are when topics are debated and they come up with a compromise form of the solution. And compromise has turned into a word that's kind of an ugly word. It's not. We've made it this far in human history, mostly because of compromise, because people found ways to compromise in situations. That doesn't seem to happen in politics, religion, or treasure hunting. I've started adding treasure hunting to politics and religion. So if I tell you that I don't believe in God and you believe in God, we're going to start picking up our own facts, and we're not going to debate it. We're not going to debate based on the facts that we have available to us. We're just going to disagree. And disagreement is not debate, and that's not how you get to solutions. So part of what I'm trying to do here is asking everyone in the community, like me, is to open up your mind about the possibilities and see whether or not there's some indication that you could come to a conclusion. Not that it's not in Yellowstone or not in New Mexico, but what is it about the treasure that will get one or the other of you closer? I'm sorry, the poem that will get one or the other of you closer to treasure. Now, to show you how it affects a searcher, I'm going to show you the video that Forrest Kolb sent me. He made a short video of his trip with his family. He's an adorable little family. They made this trip in all sincerity, and I'm going to show you the video that he shared with me and other YouTubers with the intent of spreading it around because he's trying to inform us not to go out and look for the treasure anymore because it's been found. So let's play that video, and then we'll talk about it on the way back. Huli, I'm going to take you up on that offer right now. There you are. How's that? Huh? We act fast here, Huli. We don't even have to debate that. You're it. You got the wrench, I think. Let me make sure if I did that correctly. Yeah. So type something and see if you got a wrench there. Okay. So let me play this video, and I'm not playing this video to make fun of it, to criticize it. I'm just showing you this, and I want to say that it's an example of confirmation bias, but I don't want you to be critical of it. This is a cute little family that's just as excited about going to search for Forrest Fenn's treasure as any of us. They produced the video. They came to some conclusions about it to the extent. Well, I'll let you watch the video and then we'll talk about it afterwards. Okay, here we go. Let me switch over to screenshot. And we'll go over here, and I'm going to go ahead and play this video. I've got to keep an eye on the audio to make sure it isn't too loud for you guys.
This right here is Mosquito Creek. We are up in the forest in the wood. This is where I found what we believe to be the spot of the treasure. We found the tarry scant, an old oil drum that was chained to a tree, and it was halfway dug in. It looks like part of it deteriorated from either the weather or a fire. This doesn't look like anyone did anything to it, but if you noticed, I'm going to show you on the back side of it. There, we dug a little bit under it, but on the back side, see if I can get to it. This is what was sticking out. And it looks like a perfectly cut 10 by 5 area that someone bolted on, that someone should have been able to open that up if this was an old barbecue, just like in one of Forrest Fenn's stories of being in the military when one of his chiefs converted an oil drum into a barbecue pit. But this looks like something that you could just easily slide in the treasure box and seal shut away from the elements. But it looks like nothing was here. There was a black plastic bag that looked like it was burnt in here. And I'll show you our way back up to the blaze. This is walking up a steep mountain, which we took to mean look quickly down. And now I'm going quickly back up to the blaze. This was the mouth or the front side of a horse. And it stood out on GPS like stood out like a sore thumb. So this is where we are. Beautiful countryside, and we're gonna head back down the hill. We think we did our best. This is Forrest Kolb signing off from our Forrest Fenn hunt. I think we found it. We're getting in touch with Forrest to let him know. Someone already got the treasure, but we enjoyed the nature. Bye-bye.
All right. So you see my point, and there is more than one of us that has experienced that set of emotions and that set of conclusions to us. He made a video, he shared it with us with the idea that he wanted to share it with everybody who watches our channel as well as other channels so that he could advise you not to go look for the treasure because it's already been recovered and he's already informed Forrest Fenn. Since I haven't heard that Forrest has announced that the treasure has been found, I'm going to assume that the conclusion that Mr. Kolb came to is not correct and that Forrest doesn't agree with it. All right? So he actually shared another video with me that I didn't play. I don't know where Mosquito Creek is. I just got it this morning, so I didn't have time to do any research on it. So if anybody knows where Mosquito Creek is, put it in the chat room so I can let everybody else know, or everybody else who's watching chat can see. So that, to me, is a classic example of what the definition of confirmation bias, which is the tendency to interpret new evidence as confirmation of one's existing beliefs and theories. And who hasn't done that? You want to see a really good example of confirmation bias? Watch my last Wednesday show where we were talking about a Rio de los Pinos solution theory. And Wayne Ross talked about the Arrowhead arch along the Toltec Gorge, and I translated that into the belief that that was my new blaze and that it matched with Wise Man. I got really excited. Honestly, I'm no less excited I am. Now I got to take a trip back up there to find out if everything fits. But in the meantime, William Hada sent me an image that shows, he went and looked at that piece of software that I was telling you about, and he sent me an image that on September 9th, 9/9/2019, the sun will be at a western angle that would enable it to cast its light through that arch. Now, my problem with that is it's casting us east, so you would have to be fishing on the east side of that in order to have that sunlight moment, that blaze moment. But the point that I'm trying to make is that it actually works, and it has to be checked out because it could very well be accurate. And I'll show you that image again. I'll show you when we do emails tonight. I'll show you that image tonight. So my point about this all is when you're taking evidence and you're forcing that evidence into your beliefs, you're experiencing some confirmation bias. And to the best of our knowledge, there is no evidence in the poem, and that's one of the problems with the poem. If we knew that warm waters halt were actually represented by the game and fish regulations, and I'm making that up, I'm just saying, then we would have a fact to deal with. The problem is we don't have a lot of facts. We have what's in the book. He spent a lot of time in Yellowstone. He loved New Mexico. He loved Temple, Texas. So we have some facts in the book, and then we take those facts and we use confirmation bias to fit them into our theories and beliefs. So you have to be cautious. Now, you got to start. The problem with it is that you have to start somewhere, where you've got to have some form of theories and beliefs in order to get to the next. That's why you're K-Pro Christy searching in Montana, me searching in New Mexico, others searching in Colorado and Wyoming. So you've got to start working to at least substantiate those facts. And I guess the caution is that if you get to the place, and this is the warning that I give to all new searchers, go boots on the ground, because you're going to find out a couple of things. You severely underestimated the size of the problem, and you severely underestimated your solution, the solution that you created. But Forrest had a solution, went out, saw what he looked like the blaze to him, got down to Tari scant, translated the poem to fit his perception of what he was looking at, and then made it fit to the extent that he writes Fenn a letter saying somebody's got the treasure. So again, I'm assuming that since we haven't heard from Forrest, that if that the treasure has been found, I'm going to assume that wasn't if Forrest Kolb actually wrote Forrest Fenn and told him that the treasure had been found. Then I'm going to guess that since we haven't heard from Forrest Fenn, the treasure has not been found. All right? Confirmation bias, we all suffer from it. I don't think you can't not suffer from confirmation bias in this treasure hunt. Just be aware when it is. And maybe it's a better idea not to share your confirmation bias with anybody else. Just go with it until you disprove your own confirmation bias, because I think after a while, I've gotten to the point where if I share my solution with someone, they start halfway through, they're looking at me like I'm nuts, right? And I think not sharing your confirmation bias is a way of protecting the world from your insanity, your treasure hunt insanity. All right, so I'm going to open up the phone lines, and here's the condition. I want you to call in and tell me what your version of confirmation bias is, what your particular version of confirmation bias, as an indication that you're just aware that you're experiencing some confirmation bias, because we do. So show me some facts, tell me some facts that you've turned into a solution that might indicate you're experiencing confirmation bias, because for all intents and purposes, this treasure hunt is just a big barrel of confirmation bias for all of us. For all of us. You saw me go through it last Wednesday as the sun was shining through the Arrowhead Arch. Okay, let me change this to open and change that. So just call me and tell me about your experiences with confirmation bias. Oh, I have to remind you, we got yesterday, Shelley and I met with another just adorable little family. Brian Ulrich, his wife Gina, and his daughter Samantha. And Samantha has her own YouTube channel. And she's got like 5,500 subscribers on it. And they were coming through town. They had planned to meet Cynthia so that they could sign the book, the giveaway book that Cynthia has with all the searchers' names. And so we met them at the McDonald's. We spent, I don't know, a couple of hours just talking search and YouTube and Samantha's channel. And I've got some pictures, and I'll share those with you this evening on the show this evening, so I can show you that. And then we'll talk about some other things. And like I said, I've got a special guest. So. Did I open the phone lines? Okay, phone lines are open. Give me a call and tell me what your version of confirmation bias is. So, got a bunch of text messages that we'll read tonight. It's going to be difficult. I don't have my partner here looking at the chat room, so it's going to be hard for me to go through the chat room. Let me see. I'm going to scroll through it and see if there's been any questions so far. AJ Rainville says, hang on. AJ Rainville says, knowing the power of confirmation bias and disconfirmation bias, what can a treasure hunter do to limit the effects? Just be aware. I don't think you can. I think this is a treasure hunt that's based upon confirmation bias. I'm not sure that Fenn necessarily counted on it, but he's got to assume somewhere along the line that confirmation bias is going to keep us further away from the treasure as we make the facts, to suit our own needs. So I don't think you can avoid confirmation bias. Again, you saw it. I think what you do is you take your confirmation bias, Arrowhead Arts, sunlight, you test it on photo pills to see if that actually works physically. I mean physically as in the laws of physics. And then you go up there and check it out. So I think that's the most you can do. I don't think I'm responsible. I don't think I'm responsible or you're responsible for disproving everybody else's theories. As a matter of fact, you've seen me on phone calls. I don't debate anybody about their theories. I let them express their theories. I may not necessarily agree with them, but the heck if I'm going to tell them they're wrong. And the reason I'm not going to tell them they're wrong, that I'm not going to tell them that they're wrong, is because I don't have the treasure. So their theory is just as valid as my theory. So I think those are the things we can do. I think if you're experiencing, in this treasure hunt, all theories are forms of confirmation bias. We all experience it, right? So there's only a couple of things you can do. Number one, you can check out the facts to make sure they are indeed the facts that are influencing your confirmation bias, and then you can put boots on the ground, because that's the only way you're going to cure yourself of that particular confirmation bias towards that solution. And for those of you, I've been boots on the ground 32 times. I've been in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different locations. And each time I come away from one of those locations looking at that solution saying, well, that disproves my confirmation bias. Let me go on to the next one. Because I think it is in the nature of this search, because there are so few facts to work with that we're all going to experience one form of confirmation bias or another. So let's see. All right, we got a call coming in. Let's see who we got here. Hey, it's Toby. You've reached Toby. I was going to say Toby and Shelley, but Shelley's not here. Do me a favor and turn the audio down on your whatever you're listening to, so we don't get that feedback. What's your name? Where are you calling from? And what are your thoughts on the matter of confirmation bias?
Yes, hi. This is Denise from Maryland.
Hi.
Hi. Yeah, I have a lot of confirmation bias. I've been working on the same solve about 5 years. And I just keep getting more and more, probably confirmation bias. But one of the things that I wanted to ask you about is the too far to walk part of the poem. Because for me, not having been on the forum, I just had the poem. So I didn't know about the 200-foot search or anything.
Uh-huh.
And too far to walk meant that I had to take another form of transportation.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, that's drive.
Right.
So I know with hearing some things on the blog, it seems to rule that out. So one of us has confirmation bias.
Yeah.
It's me or you.
Right. Well, no. We both have confirmation bias because we both have a way to validate our respective solutions. So first of all, let me ask you this question. How many times have you been boots on the ground?
8.
8 times.
And I will be going on my 9th. I have to actually delay. I said I was going to go get the treasure on the 23rd, but there were some obstacles. And I need another chance. So.
Right. So the point that I'm trying to make is
that.
You've done 8, I've done 32. Is there anything about that you discovered in any one of those boots on the ground? What is it that you discovered on those boots on the ground that would either validate your confirmation, confirm your bias, or disconfirm your bias?
Well, I still believe, it might still be a valid solve. I just haven't been able to get to the spot I want to get to.
Mm-hmm. So until you get to that
I have 9
point.
clues.
Right.
Yeah, I have 9 clues. I even have a pattern. It's
Right.
not a cipher,
Uh-huh.
but I found a pattern in the clues. I have 9 places on a map. Eerily, I seem to understand some of the things Forrest is saying, and have found them on the map in
Right.
relation to myself.
Mm-hmm.
So it's either a lot of confirmation bias, or maybe there's just some. So,
No,
but the thing that I think the too far to walk. How do you go past that? How do you follow that instruction?
well,
in your solve?
yeah, that's what makes it so interesting and confusing, because we know he has said there were searchers that solved the first 2 clues and then walked past the other 7, walked past the treasure, right? So if
But has Forrest ever ruled out? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, so what I was going to say is one has to then determine which first 2 clues is he talking about. He says the first clue is begin at where warm waters halt. The question that occurs after that is what's the second clue? Is the second clue the combination of and take it in the canyon down, not far but too far to walk? So if the second clue is those 2, take it in the canyon down, I'm going to give you an example of my confirmation bias. If we assume, then this is Shelley's theory. If we assume that warm waters halt at Osher Station, at that point you're about 500 feet from the Rio de los Pinos. That's not too far to walk. The problem is it's very steep, and so there's a switchback road. That's pretty rough. It's only wide enough for one vehicle. If you're passing a vehicle in the other direction, one of you has to climb up on the side of the hill for the other to get by. So it's not far, but because you have to use this road to get down there, it's too far to walk, right? I don't have any. Those are the facts, but I don't have any evidence that warm waters halt at Osher, et cetera, et cetera. I'm just using that as an example. Another example of not far but too far to walk is you're on one side of the river, and your home of Brown is on the other side of the river, and there's not a nearby bridge. So your choices are to walk back to the nearest bridge, or walk forward to the nearest crossing, or cross the water right there. Not far, but too far to walk, not too far to wade. So those are examples. And again, you can do a lot of that, thought. Eventually you get to the thought, and you work at it, and you believe in the theory, right? Until you get to the point that your theory doesn't hold true.
Right. And with mine, it's almost a crazy amount of confirmation bias, especially when my family started believing that this could be it. But it's a complex riddle. I've said it on the internet. It's a riddle wrapped in a mystery inside an enigma.
Yeah.
And it's not that easy, and that could be confirmation bias on my part. But
no. I think that's
really, to me,
I think that's an accurate representation. I think it could be easier stated that the enigma that you're referring to is Forrest Fenn himself. This came out of his mind. For us to assume that any one of us can interpret it accurately based on the thinking in his head is really strange, right? It's difficult. David Blaine created clues that he designed specifically to be solved, right? They didn't necessarily come out of his mind. He was a very, and I don't mean to imply that Fenn isn't a creative person, but he was creative enough to take that and determine what parts needed to be published in his book so that you and I could eventually interpret them. But he made that plan specifically. I think that Fenn, I don't want to say it was his intent necessarily that we wouldn't be able to interpret them. I did a video a while back, which is probably one of the reasons that Forrest doesn't particularly care for me, but I did a while back a video, and it was entitled "He Over-Engineered the Poem." And the more I thought about it, it wasn't that he over-engineered it. He used his experiences, the way his mind was constructed, and created those clues of physical objects in his own head. And we don't have the context. We don't have, we can argue the context is fishing, the context is Yellowstone, the context, whatever it is, we don't know. We don't have any idea what context he used because we're not inside Forrest Fenn's brain. And I think that's what makes it, that's where the confirmation bias is, because we don't have any other form of confirmation. We don't know, unlike the David Blaine poem, everybody knew that they found and they could put their hands upon the first clue, right? Somebody figured it out, they posted it to the internet, and yep, that was the first clue. Well, when somebody finds what I don't think will ever happen in the Forrest Fenn treasure hunt, is that if somebody can unequivocally confirm the physical location of the first clue, the likelihood of them publishing it to the internet is slim to none. That's not going to happen.
Right. I'm sorry, I'm having a little trouble here. It's kind of windy.
Yeah, I can hear the wind in the background.
Today, but yeah.
Well, you can come back and watch the video when it's published.
Myself. Yeah, and I'll share myself if I can get to the blaze. I'll share everything, and it's a strange solve, but like as I did it before, I heard about 200-foot search or anything, and I really think driving, and I found some clues, things Forrest said, like in the beginning of the preface, too far to walk. 10 miles is just too far.
Yeah.
So mine is more than 10 miles if you drive. And he said he likes people to stay 20 feet away. And the total distance that I drive is about 20 miles.
Right.
So, is that biased or meant to be?
Well, it depends. If
you don't know until
here's where it becomes bias. Here's where it translates from theory to bias. It translates from theory to bias when you show up to your location and you start digging up a barrel, an old rusted barrel, and you come to the conclusion that the treasure's already been found. You showed up at the right place, but the treasure's already been found. So it becomes confirmation bias when you take and that's why I call it a theory rather than a solution, right? So you have a theory, you go out and test your theory, and you realize, nope, that's not right. Or you find the rusted barrel, and that to you confirms that you're in the right place. That's the point. It becomes confirmation bias. So if you've made 8 trips,
I haven't been able.
Yeah. If you've made 8 trips
and
you haven't found the treasure, you just have a good theory, not necessarily confirmation bias. But if you make a 9th trip and you go to your location and you find a hole covered with a big rock, big flat rock, and you come to the conclusion that you found the right place, but the treasure has been removed, and we haven't heard from Forrest Fenn that the treasure's been found, then that's probably confirmation bias.
Yeah, that's one thing I probably wouldn't do. If I didn't find it, I would just say that I didn't find it.
Right, yeah.
But, yeah, you can have some confirmation bias possibly related to the lead searcher and where they were and what they did and how they drove. They kind of got the first two clues and kind of muddled through the rest and drove in their car.
The fact that we use the phrase,
the
fact that we use the phrase "the lead searcher" is a form of confirmation bias. That fulfills our need.
200-foot searcher.
Well, the 200-foot searcher, yes, I think, but I don't. They didn't know they were 200 feet, so I don't compare them to the lead searcher. I believe Fenn told us there was someone within 200 feet. But I don't think of that as the lead searcher. I think the concept of the lead searcher, the myth of the lead searcher, is confirmation bias that at least somebody is making progress, where the hope that someone is making progress. All right, let me take another call. We've been on for about a little over 10 minutes, so let me take another call. Thanks for calling in. It's been fun. Good luck with your search.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Thank you.
Okay, phone lines are open. By the way, I want to point out a couple of things. Number one, Shelley and Kevin and I are going up to Hyde Park next Sunday afternoon, and we're going to go hide this coin in Hyde Park so that it's going to be made available to the folks at Fenbury. New call. Hey, you've reached Toby at Gypsy Kiss. What's your name? Where are you calling from? And what are your thoughts on confirmation bias?
Hey, Toby, this is Jack in Philadelphia.
Hey, Jack. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Very good. Thanks.
Yeah, so I know I was supposed to originally talk to you about this, and I didn't know you were going to do the video on this. I actually went ahead and made my own video yesterday about this and other cognitive biases.
Yeah.
In Hunt. So if people want to watch it, it's called Cognitive Bias in Forrest Fenn Treasure Hunters.
So what do you think? Is there a sense of cognitive or confirmation bias?
What's that?
So do you believe that we experience, those of us in the treasure hunt experience cognitive or confirmation bias?
Yeah, definitely. I think anytime that you have a situation where there's not a lot of opportunity for confirmation, like you say, there kind of aren't guardrails anywhere. It's easy to lean on those biases that all of our brains have. I think, especially with confirmation bias, people don't have an appreciation for coincidence and just how much coincidence is around us at all times. And also our brains are kind of wired to find patterns. We kind of err on the side of finding false positives in things, kind of like an evolutionary advantage, but it kind of restricts our brains in some way. And you see that, in this hunt, people, find a pattern and it feels real to them. And especially when you have such a strong incentive, you're told, if you find the pattern, there's $1 million treasure at the end of the line. You're much more apt to fudge things along the way.
So do me a favor, send me a link to your video and I'll put it in our community blog so other people can see it.
Sure, I'll do that.
All right.
Yeah. So in terms of combating it, I think we need to have actually a higher burden of proof for, what's a coincidence and what's a real pattern. And I think the only way to do that is to try and find intent. In Fenn, is intention to lead you on this particular path. And I don't know for sure that there is evidence of that, but he says he is straightforward and there's no subterfuge, and it's a lot less complicated than people think. So I have to think that there is evidence of intent out there for us to find, and that's our way of kind of disproving the coincidence. I think anything should be considered a coincidence until proven otherwise, and that's trying to find intent.
Yeah.
To back these things up.
Yeah.
So that's my piece on confirmation bias.
Hey, well, no, that's a pretty good piece. It sounds like it's got some research behind it. So again, email that link to me, gypsieskiss@gmail.com, and I will post it to our community blog so other people can take a look at it.
All right, sounds good.
All right. Thanks for calling in. You have a good day.
All right, yeah. You too.
All right. Phone lines are open. You can reach me at 866-597. I'm sorry. Let me do that again. 866-597-9901. Call me and let's talk about the confirmation bias, that weird experience that we all have at one time or the other. And of course, it isn't just about treasure hunting. As I said, it applies in politics. It applies in the discussions about religion. It probably has, if you get into any of the major academic topics that are close, near and dear to your heart, there's probably some confirmation bias experienced in some of that. So it's not unusual. It's just that all right, let's answer this. Hey, you've reached Toby and Shelley. I'm sorry, you haven't reached Shelley. Didn't mean to say that. You've reached Toby at Gypsy Kiss. What's your name? Where are you calling from? And what are your thoughts on the matter of confirmation bias?
Hi, Toby. My name is Jerry. I call from Kentucky.
Kentucky?
Actually, for me, Kentucky. For me, the confirmation bias was actually the book. I've been going to one of my favorite places on earth is Yellowstone. And I've actually been going there 3 or 4 times a year to hike since 2010. Every year, I find that interesting, just coincidence. But since 2010, I've been going every year since 3 or 4 times a year.
Yeah.
Going hiking and spending time out there on vacation. The first time I heard about Forrest Fenn was this past winter. And so I only knew I saw his name, and then I read the poem. And the first thing I thought about was Yellowstone, just from reading the poem. I thought of actually the boiling river that when it flows into the Gardner River there in North Yellowstone.
Uh-huh.
So this was before I knew anything about the book, about his backstory. And then once I found out that he had actually grown up, he spent his summers there, to me, it all pointed to Yellowstone.
Right.
I really believe, to me, there's no way the treasure's in, let's say, Colorado.
Uh-huh.
Because in the book, he doesn't mention Colorado at all. Right? At least not that I can remember. There's no mention of Colorado. So everything for me just points to Yellowstone. And I basically, now I've heard you make the point about in the first book, The Thrill of the Chase, he only says the mountains north of Santa Fe.
Uh-huh.
Do you know if anybody has ever asked him why he didn't define the search area better and why he just left it that? Do you know if anybody ever asked him that?
I don't know necessarily that.
Explained?
Yeah. Here's what I know. Number one, you said it yourself. He said that it's in the mountains north. He put it somewhere in the mountains north of Santa Fe. He hid it somewhere in the mountains north of Santa Fe. He published 1,000 copies of the book and then collected works. So he wasn't expecting a big treasure hunt. We did a video entitled Forrest Fenn Discovered the Rocky Mountains in 2013 with the release of The Thrill of the Chase and the publishing of the benchmark map in the back of, with the publishing of Too Far to Walk. And the the publishing of the benchmark map in the back of that book. Suddenly it became the 4 states. He has said since then that it's in the Rocky Mountains, and he held up the map at Moby Dickens. And as he held it up, he said, if you know where the treasure is, you'll find it on this map. So the implication, and that's kind of forced Fenn, the implication is that it's someplace on that map, any one of the 4 states. Well, if it's in New Mexico, it was on the map, right? That's my confirmation bias. The problem I had with it is Fenn has told us what states the treasure is not in. He's told us it's not in Idaho, it's not in Utah. He's never said that the treasure is in New Mexico or Colorado or Wyoming or Montana. He hasn't put together those 4 states. He's never used the sentence, you will find the treasure in one of New Mexico, Colorado, Wyoming, and Montana. He uses the Rocky Mountains. And at that point, it leaves it up to the interpretation, right? You can search anywhere you want. If he said the 4 states, it would still leave it up to interpretation, but he's never done that. And so I've always wondered, why hasn't he done that? Why hasn't he actually said you can find the treasure in one of those 4 states? It's still in the Rocky Mountains, and that satisfies his needs for me. It satisfies my needs to believe it's in New Mexico, because there are the Rocky Mountains in New Mexico, and it satisfies your need to believe it's in Yellowstone. But I do want to make a point of something that you said before I give you a chance to talk again, and that is the book presents facts. It's how we interpret those facts. So the facts are he spent a lot of time in Yellowstone and described it in the book. Those are facts. It's pretty clear. Now there may be a form of literary exaggeration because we know that he has a tendency for that, but I don't think they were exaggerated too far. I think of Fenn as a really good storyteller, and each one of his stories have basis of fact, and that's what's documented in The Thrill of the Chase. It's for us to interpret. So, I look at the book and I see New Mexico. You look at the book and see Yellowstone. As a matter of fact, I think we're going to find it very interesting in the survey that I did, what people believe about where the treasure is. It's pretty interesting.
Okay. Well, if you don't mind, let me ask you a hypothetical question. If he had included the map that's in Too Far to Walk, if he had included that map in The Thrill of the Chase, would you still be as convinced? Because you believe it's in New Mexico, right?
That's correct.
That's your theory.
That's correct. That's my
theory.
If
he had included that map and had said the Rocky Mountains from the start of the treasure hunt, he had included that in The Thrill of the Chase, would you still be as convinced that it's in New Mexico?
I don't think I'd be as adamant about it. The problem for me is that if he didn't at the same time change the words in the book and change his behavior, if he put the map in the back of the Thrill of the Chase, and this is your hypothetical, so I'm going to answer with a hypothetical theory. If he had put the map in the Thrill of the Chase rather than in Too Far to Walk, and he didn't change the paragraph that said he hid it somewhere in the mountains north of Santa Fe, and he didn't publish more than 1,000 copies of the book and put them in collected works, I would still lean towards New Mexico. Now, I would have to do some additional analysis to determine whether or not there's something there about Yellowstone, because Yellowstone for me is a confirmation of the context because when he talks about Yellowstone, he talks about people, but everything about Yellowstone is fishing, right? He's always talking about fishing. So that would make the context of the poem fishing, and that would feed some other things of mine. But I don't, so I'll give you a hypothetical answer. If the map that is in Too Far to Walk, in the back of Too Far to Walk, was placed in The Thrill of the Chase, I would still have a difficult time overcoming the idea that he said it's hidden in the mountains north of Santa Fe, and that he published 1,000 copies of the book.
Okay. Yeah.
With the expectation somehow or the other that people who were interested in searching Yellowstone would buy the book at the collected works and then drive north 1,000 miles.
Yeah. Okay. Now, I do want to say, I have no idea where this treasure is.
That makes at least two solutions.
Of us. Yeah, and I really think the clues may lead you to, or will lead you to the chest but they also can lead you to a million other places in the Rocky Mountains. So I definitely do not have any strong, like, I know exactly where it is. It's just my mindset has always been around yellow stuff. So, one other question for you, if you'll allow me.
We've got a couple of minutes.
If he originally intended to just include the area north of Santa Fe, and that's where he hid the treasure, and that's what that was originally the search area, New Mexico, just the mountains north of Santa Fe. And then people were getting close, and then he expanded it to keep people away from the chest. To me, that would be shady, underhanded, evil, whatever word that you want to apply.
Right.
I've never met Forrest Fenn. I only know him when the camera's on. I've read the book. I don't know him in person. I've never shook his hand. Is he that kind of person? Would he? Because to me, it's almost evil to do that.
Yeah.
Or underhanded. Is he capable of that, in your opinion?
All right. So that's an interesting way to put the question. I believe anybody's capable of mischievousness. Certainly, Forrest, by reading his books, is capable of mischievousness, right? He's a mischievous person. Okay. But in the case of expanding the search, I don't think that was being mischievous. I think that was Forrest keeping to his rules of sell, sell, sell. When he saw that it was expanding. So, and this is what I think part of maybe one of Fenn's weaknesses. His underestimation of the impact of social networks. I think when Margie Goldsmith came to him and said she was writing an article for Hemispheres magazine, I wonder if he even asked what Hemispheres magazine was, right? So he responds to that article. It's published in Hemispheres magazine, and basically Hemispheres magazine is the equivalent of a social network because it's on every United Airlines flight, and it exploded. And then Good Morning America, whoever it was, or Today, whoever it was, called him, and they want him to be on TV. The newspaper publishers are calling him, magazine publishers, book publishers, they're calling him, and suddenly Fenn says, so to answer your question, I don't think Fenn says, oh, well, let me screw this up real good and spread it out so nobody's finding the treasure. I think what Forrest Fenn said, underestimating the power of social networking, and not realizing that there's a portion of every social network that's just a little bit nuts, and we know we have our own little family of those. I think he underestimated the potential that was inherent in that kind of social networking, and I think that he underestimated the potential for craziness, right? But what he saw was a marketing opportunity, and I think you can explain that real easily by saying the proceeds of the profits from Thrill of the Chase go to Collected Works, the proceeds of Too Far to Walk go to his grandchildren, and the proceeds of Once Upon a While go to his closest business associates. So if there was mischievousness in all that, it would have to be the combination of lots of money making that go into Forrest Fenn's pocket and lots of let's spread this out. I think Forrest's vision was cool. Now we can get more people into nature and away from their little texting machines. I don't think it was, let me screw this up. I'm going to put it in the 4 states.
Okay, so you believe his intention was to get more people out looking, not necessarily just to keep them away from the chest. Yes, I do. Okay. I appreciate that. And I watch your videos a lot. I really appreciate your commentary. I love the way you explain things. It's really helped me out. Like I said, I'm pretty new, just a couple months into this, trying to learn and figure out everything that's going on. So I really appreciate all your work.
Well, I'm glad you enjoy the program, and thank you for calling in. Feel free to call in the future.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks, Toby. You have a good day.
My pleasure. Thanks for joining us today. Okay, I'm going to close the phone lines because we're getting down the trail here. Oops. I'm not going to take that because we're close. So 423, call me again tonight, okay? Because I've got to close up this show. Okay, pow. All right, so we're coming up on the 2 o'clock hour. If you want to see Shelley and I together, you can see us in a half hour at the softer side. She's got a show on positive thinking, which is what she's probably experiencing right now. And then we'll be on again on It's Not a Restoration. We're going to be talking about powder coating. We're having fun with that. But we're focusing on that channel and trying to grow it out in a variety of ways, and that's what's keeping her so busy. And then she sent me a letter a little while before this show started. I'll read it tonight. And then I want to address something that happened in the room. When I say because I can, what I mean when I block somebody, it's because YouTube gives me the tools to make sure that I maintain a quality a channel. And when somebody either picks on somebody else or makes disparaging remarks about either Shelley or I, you're not going to be invited back to this channel. So if you're not invited back to this channel, that means one of two things. You made disparaging remarks about someone else, or you made disparaging remarks about us. I don't need that. Or sometimes we get the crazies that are sending in, like the audio guy that came in last week. But I'm trying to maintain the quality and integrity of this channel. And if you're offended by being blocked, then be civil. That's all I'm asking. If you're not civil to the people around you or to Shelley and I, then I'm going to block you. And there are plenty of other channels you can go to enjoy yourself. And when I say because I can, what I mean is YouTube gives me the tools to maintain the integrity and protect the quality of my channel. All right? I hope you don't take offense at that. Everybody who's in here generally knows the rules that we stick to. It's pretty simple. Don't pick on anybody else and don't pick on us. It's just that easy, right? All right, thanks for joining me today. We will see you tonight. I've got a special guest. I'll be reading a letter from Shelley. We'll be playing that other video from Forrest Kolb. I don't even know what's on it. I may not be able to play it. I'll check it out first. And then we'll get into emails, text messages, and call-ins, okay? Thanks for joining me today. And for A Gypsy's Kiss, this is Toby Younis. We'll see you tonight.